So today we're going to talk about 3 pillars of brand, and these things are so essential now because they are the keys really to unlocking consistency in how everything you do is presented to the world. So when people engage with your content, when they see, hear, feel and experience your presence online, these 3 pillars really are critical in that experience. Now, you don't need to be a branding wizard. You don't need to be any kind of like graphic design wizard. You don't need a background in graphic art. You don't need an art degree to master and understand and put to work the power of these 3 pillars. That's what I'm going to share with you right now. Okay, so know that with little to zero experience, you can present yourself consistently and beautifully everywhere online. Consistency is the word that you'll hear me say a lot today. Okay, so let's dive into the 3 pillars of brand. Super simple, super straightforward, but amazingly powerful for you and for your business. First pillar of brand, logo. Now, logo doesn't necessarily have to be a logo. It's a visual representation of who you are, what you're all about. It can be your name, it can be a brand, it can be something, but it needs to be, what's that watchword? Begins with a C. Consistent, right? It has to be consistent. So you need to have a representation of you that you can use consistently. Don't worry about details. Don't worry about, oh, do I use an icon? Do I use this? Do I use all the other? That's detail, right? Right now, we're just looking for consistency across everything that you do. But you need some kind of image that is used to represent you. Okay, logo. And then the other thing that you want to do when you create a logo is you want to create something that works on both dark and light backgrounds. So there's an example of a logo I created. You can see the image on the left and the image on the right. They're kind of flipped so that they work. One works on a dark background, one works on a light background. So it's always useful to have 2 versions of your logo, one for light, one for dark. Okay. And again, I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty detail of this. I'm just giving you the essential pieces, the essence, the bits that will make all the difference. Okay. Logo, light version, dark version. And as you can see from there, mine is literally my signature, right? So I took a pen on the iPad. That's a bit scruffy, but you get the idea, right? So I might have done it about 10 times to get it neat. But that's essentially the representation of me online. Everywhere you look, you'll see that representation. Okay? Logo, dark and light. Second pillar of brand is fonts. Okay? Fonts. When you look at a website or a printed article or a leaflet or an advert or something, when you look at it and it looks like a dog's dinner, as they say in the UK, or a dog's breakfast, as I've heard my Australian friends say, when it looks like a mess, it's because they don't have these consistent elements that we're talking about today. Okay, so when it comes to fonts, again, super simple. You need 2. You need a font to use for your headlines, as I've illustrated in this slide, and you need a font that you can use for the body text. So the paragraph of text that would come in the body, and this can be used then everywhere. Headlines on landing pages, headlines on lead magnets, headlines on social media posts, graphics, everywhere. Okay, headline font, body font. They can be contrasting. So if you look here, I've got this headline font here where you see the word marketing. That's a really heavy font called Poppins. And then I use a light, very narrow font called Montserrat for the body text to give it a little bit of contrast. You can mix this is a bit of detail, but let me give it you anyway, right? You can mix what's called serif and sans serif fonts. So serif font, if we have a letter like this, serif doesn't have any swirly bits, right? So if we added bits onto this font like this, and my drawing's really scruffy, right? So forgive me. That would become like a serif type font, with and without, okay? So they give different looks and feels, and it's just about choosing fonts that will give you the right look and feel for you, okay? So have a look at Google Fonts. Browse through Google Fonts, create 2 font pairings, and you're away. That's your font pillar, done and sorted. Everywhere that you use text, use those fonts. If it's a headline, use your headline font. If it's the body text, use your body font, okay? Fonts is the second pillar of your brand foundation. Final pillar, color. Color really is the bit that pulls everything together. In articles, on websites, on landing pages, it's the color that is almost magical in the way that it brings everything together. So there are so many like places you can use the graphic design software like Photoshop and Affinity. You can use free tools online like Canva, Crello, Design Bold, Glorify. There are many, many, many ways to create stuff. And you know what? It doesn't matter where and how you create your stuff. That doesn't matter. What matters is that you achieve consistency with color and the other elements. So this is the color palette that I use in my brand, okay? And there are really only 3 core elements to creating a color palette for you. I know there's a lot of colors on there, but you've got a main color, then you've got a complementary color. So if we look at this navy blue as a main color, and then we've got either of these 2 would become complementary colors because they're shades of that main blue, okay? So a main color, a complementary color, and then a contrasting color. So I have 2 contrasting colors only because I like to be awkward and play around with this stuff, right? But you only need 1 actually. You only need 1. So the light blue and the red are contrasting colors. Main color, complementary, contrast. There is a ton of color theory. There is a ton of information about how to create palettes, but you can look at Adobe Color. You can look at Peloton. Let me find it for you. Peloton.com, P-A-L-E-T-T-O-N.com. You can pick palettes. So see how we've got this red and then the complementary color, and then contrasting color. If we look at a color wheel here, goes the opposite side, right? So to pick a contrasting color to that red, we would come over here to where we've got the greens and the blues and the yellows, right? In that triad at the bottom, that segment at the bottom. You can build preset color themes that work. You can make your own, you can play with them. Second place to play with is called Adobe Color, color.adobe.com. Exactly the same thing, okay? You've got a load of preset palettes that you can play around with. You can play around with all the different types of color theory for creating palettes. But basically, you want to end up with this. You want to end up with a palette of colors that work together, okay? That don't look like the dog's dinner, that don't look like the dog's breakfast, right? That give you that all-important consistency. So I'm going to show you just a couple of examples now. This is a snapshot of a landing page of mine. And let's see what we can see, right? So we can see in here, make my pen a bit bigger. We've got contrast color. We've got contrast color. We've got background color. We've got complementary color. So the only colors you see on this page, apart from the white, are colors out of the palette. Okay? This font is the headline font. This font is the body font. There's the two font pairings. There's the color. There's it all synthesized and at play in the real world. Okay? That's what you want. Everything that you create needs to have this very same consistency. Another example, this is a social media post. Look, background color, logo, headline font, body font. Okay, so everything that goes out into the world, it's consistent, it matches. Another snapshot of a page, right? Here we go, look. Contrast color, main color. Whoops. Headline font. Body font. That's that charcoal black. Okay. This color is the main color. Everything matches. Can you see? Logo here on the video. Everything matches, everything's consistent. So it feels congruent and it feels consistent. If we were to switch out the fonts, switch out the colors, and switch out, use different logos or not use a logo, then it's those three things that really do give everything, they tie everything together. They weave everything neatly and beautifully together so that you've got consistency in everything that you produce. You've got these pillars of brand that will make all of the difference in everything that you create, okay? Whether you create a lead magnet, whether you create, look at that lead magnet in there, right? Hold on, where have we gone? Hold on, I'm zooming out too fast here. There we go. So the lead magnet in here, you can see contrast color. This font is the headline font. That color there is the contrast color, headline font, body font. Everything matches, right? Everything's consistent all the way across. Okay, that's what you're aiming for. Summary. 3 pillars of brand. Logo. It might be an actual logo. It might just be a representation of your name. It can be any of those things. Do you know what's most important? Don't pore over the detail. What's most important is consistency. A dark version and a light version. Fonts, pillar number 2. You need a headline font. You need a contrasting body text font. Contrasting or complementary. Pairings that match together. Google font pairings and you'll see hundreds and hundreds of options. Pick one that matches you. Pick one that matches what you're doing. Pick one that matches your offering. Pick one that matches what you're all about. Okay? And finally, color palette. Main color, complementary color, contrast color. Play with Peloton, play with Adobe Color. Create a palette that works for you. Again, all of these things are reflections of you, reflections of who, excuse me, of who you are, what you're all about, what your offering is all about, what your brand is all about, and what your positioning is all about in the world. And then finding consistency with all of these things in everything that you do. That's when the magic happens, because everything that you put out into the world has the same feel, the same look, and provides the same experience. Okay, so what I've just given you there is literally 25 years of hard-won experience in marketing and branding. Companies will pay millions and millions and millions of dollars for that level of consistency across everything that they do. You're in a very fortunate position in that you can instill these 3 pillars to have that same consistency now in everything that you do, in everything that you put out into the world, to make a difference with what you do.